Hey YouTube, welcome back to the Obi Thorin Alliance. What are you doing today, Jacob?
We are reviewing Super Mario movie review.
So stick around and see what we think of the Super Mario movie. So, briefly describe what happens in the Super Mario movie. Summarize it for me.
Well, Mario and Luigi are plumbers. They have started their own business and they want to get ahead, and then they do their first job and then it goes mildly okay, and then something happens in their town and then they mysteriously get into the Mushroom Kingdom, and then they get separated. They have to go against Bowser and help Princess Peach save the day.
Yeah, so this movie takes a slight variation of twist compared to what's pretty normal in the Mario games, where instead of Peach getting abducted, and Peach this time is helping Mario save Luigi. So it's a bit different this time, and I think it was quite a cool twist and change of things. And as you said, they were plumbers and they live in Brooklyn City in New York, and they somehow find this magical pipe that ends up taking them to the Mushroom Kingdom, which not a whole lot of explanation about it, but we'll get into that later, what we think about it. So anything else you want to add to the summary before we give it a score?
This is definitely a movie for families and children. Very fun experience. Enjoyed the animation, the prettiness, everything like that. It's definitely worth seeing.
Yeah, totally agree with that. So let's get into giving our score. So first we've got the plot. What do you give the plot, Jacob?
It's 0.5 out of 10. Look, the plot doesn't do anything amazing, but this is more a kids movie and it's more character driven. It's more about getting to point A to point B. The story is just there so the characters can do what they want. Don't get me wrong, it's not a terrible story, but it's not Shakespeare or anything that special. It's there as background music, but it's still good.
Yeah, 100%. I gave it 6 out of 10. The plot is one of its weakest things, but I'm completely fine with that because it's simple. It's made for kids. It's from Illumination Studios. It doesn't need to be complex for kids. It's as simple as bad person wants to do bad things, good people defeat bad person. They keep it simple, and I'm not going to give it a huge score because of that, but the plot was what it needed to be, but it's a 6 either way. What about the characters?
Characters, this is one of the areas it succeeds in a 9. Really enjoyed Mario, Luigi, Princess Peach. Bowser as Jack Black is the standout. Donkey Kong, his voice, don't know about, but all the characters are standout, and this is the fun and charm of the movie. Very standout.
I gave the characters also a 9 out of 10. The characters have obviously been built over decades and decades of Mario games, so we know what we're going to expect. But they kind of stuck true to their stereotypes from within the games. I think they did a good job. They included the characters you wanted to see. Maybe there could have been a few extras. There's a few Easter eggs suggesting some future possible characters if they do make, but they did what they need to do. So the characters, nearly a perfect score, and they did, as I said, had lots of material to work with to get them to that. What about the acting or voice acting in this instance, being an animated film?
This got an 8, very high score. The voice acting, Jack Black is the standout. Mario's Chris Pratt. I thought he did a decent job. I know a lot of people on the internet didn't like the casting choice. Charlie Day as Luigi is other standout. Everyone does a fantastic job. I'm personally didn't think Steph Rogen was a good choice as Donkey Kong, but talk about you about that more, but highly caliber voice actors.
So I've gone 8.5 for the acting. I think the casting was pretty spot on. I think Bowser was great. Jack Black was great. I actually thought I enjoyed Charlie Day is even better. I think that was an absolute perfect match. I think Bowser as Black Jack, there's probably a few other people that could have played that role and still been successful, but I think Charlie Day was the perfect choice for Luigi, hands down. I like Chris Pratt too. There was a lot of criticism, as Jacob mentioned, prior to this movie coming out, and He did a good job. Chris Pratt is a very funny actor. I like him when he does those sorts of roles. I can't say he's done too many serious roles, but he's played a very similar kind of character that suits him, and I think is genuine to his personality. Playing, being in the OC to being in Parks and Recreation to even him as Star-Lord, it's kind of the same kind of genuineness that he brings to each of those characters. I think he did a really good job. What about the entertainment factor?
This gets a very high score. Well, 9. This is just a fun movie with what happens in the movie. It's very engaging, or everything. The plot doesn't make it as enjoyable, but what the characters bring with the funness with the movie is what is special about the movie, is that the bad guy is going to lose, but it's still fun getting there because the movie is just a fun ride. It's like eating a cake. It's fun going through the experience, but the plot lets it down.
So I gave the entertainment factor an 8.5. It was entertaining. It is a kids movie. I think kids are going to like it a whole lot more. I find it hard to sit through a lot of animated movies, and I actually quite enjoyed this, and I think it is quite rewatchable. So 8.5 for this. What about the presentation and visuals? It's an animated movie. That's a big part of it when we talk about animation, the visuals.
I gave it an 8. I really enjoyed the colors. It's very charms within the eyes appearing, but I don't think everyone will like the look of that. Some people prefer different animations and live action, but for me, I really enjoyed the colors. It added to the charm to the movie.
I gave the presentation and visuals a 9. I think they did a really good mix of, one, the characters look stunning. They look like what you expected. Very similar to the most recent Mario games. The quality of those games are so good now. But I liked how they gave the world life, and how they incorporated being 2D and sometimes that the 2D cross the screen kind of game that we're used to from playing the original Super Mario's. So, being 3D. Especially there's a scene early on where they're running late to get to a job, and they've got it kind of swaps and they're going 2D, and Mario's jumping and going over these bricks, and he opens the door for Luigi to come in. I think they really incorporated the game aspect to that well. I think visually it was almost perfect. I really, really liked how they did that, and it was clever. I think it paid good homage to the games themselves, and especially as well when we get to see Rainbow Road and driving and the Mario Kart. I think they did a really good job with that. Moving to the pacing and how the movie felt for you.
I gave it a 7. There were some moments they more focused on getting to the destination instead of the journey, but it is a kids movie, so I did understand that the kids are the most, and families are the most target audience. And also, the separation between Mario basically had 2 perspectives, but overall it was amazing.
So I gave the pacing an 8.5. I felt that it was a good length. I don't like it when movies drag on, and I don't think this dragged on at all, and that's why I gave it the good score. But that is because it's designed to be kid friendly. So where plot it loses points because it's basic, it gains it back in terms of its pacing because of its basicness. It gets to the point quickly. So it's an 8.5 for that. What about the ending?
I really liked the ending. It was a 9. I really enjoyed how they became successful. They were underdogs throughout the story, and the underdogs became champions. The villain could have used thing that he got from the start. The hero needs to win the day, and I did like the ending credit scene that they did for the next movie. I thought the ending was, for a kids movie, it was perfect.
So I gave the ending a 7. My reasoning for that is I think that it was almost a little easy. Like I felt
easy.
I felt that Bowser seemed way too overpowered, and they kind of took him out quite easily. I do like that they had the incorporation of the 1-up powers and what it could do, but it just seemed way too easy. And yes, it is a kids movie, but there is lots of other kids animated movies where the hero is getting beaten down and like he finds inspiration to win. I just felt it was very very simple how he did it, and so it just hurt it a little bit for me. But it's fine. I'm not its target audience. So speaking of that, let's move to we'll get to target audience next. Originality and uniqueness of this movie.
It gets a 7. There's not a lot of animation game movies besides Sonic, but we've seen this plot and kind of story before, but it still is original in a way, but not to the extreme that the plot's where it's let down, but we haven't seen many anime game movies before, but it's not that original.
I'm giving it an 8.5, not necessarily because it's original, but more it was unique, and I like how it incorporated elements of the game into the movie. I like that it gave. I don't know what Mario and Luigi's exact backstory and whether the movie got it correct. I'm not that big of a fan, but for the sake of the movie, I like the fact that they're humans that grow up in Brooklyn. They're from an Italian background. They don't have strong accents, but they do their little like yippee, it's me. They do that stuff, and they add it into an ad they do on TV for their plumbing company, and how they actually get into the Mushroom Kingdom. I'm cool with that. It's very simple, and that's what I think makes it fairly unique. And I like the backstory they give each character, and I think that's fairly unique. So I like, Bowser's reasons for why he wants to do what he wants to do, and I liked that Peaches, I never really thought about it, that she's possibly a human as well that happened to go through the same pathway that they did to enter the Mushroom Kingdom. So I thought that was really unique. I like that. And I don't know if it's original because I'm not sure because I don't know the franchise that well, but it seemed original to me. So I like that. So target audience, what do you think?
I gave it an 8. I think it nails what it's going for, but I don't think it will appeal to everyone. Like, if you're an adult, obviously you'll have your nitpicks, but I think if you just look at it for a fun movie, you'll enjoy this movie. But its target audience is young kids and families, and in that aspect, it nails it 100%. When I saw the movie, there were families and kids, and it was a packed cinema, and for all the movies I've seen this year, it was the most packed movie that I've seen this year. So yeah,
same. I've actually did in fact give it a 10 for this. I think it was a perfectly target audience. I think from what I saw, the cinema's packed with kids and they were having a great time. And it also brought in the older crowd to come see it, or those that had grown up playing the game. I personally liked it. Others may have been disappointed and it didn't hit their target audience perfectly, but from what I saw, I thought it nailed the target audience, and it brought in a large group of people. And you know what? I think kids will continue to rewatch this. This will be a movie that kids watch on their iPads in their car when they go on long trips, or little kids get it put on repeat on the TV whilst mum and dad are trying to do the housework. I think it's going to get a lot of views through that. And I think that those from the older demographic like myself won't be disappointed. Quick, simple, they didn't overplay their hand, they didn't make the plot too complicated. So I think it ticks a lot of boxes, and I think from what I've seen the reviews by the audience, it's well received. So I think the target audience it nailed. Time value, last one, was it worth watching?
Yes, I gave it a 7. The adult in me obviously had nitpicks because my brain was thinking, but the fun overtook that, and for me, it was well worth the time. Probably the most enjoyable movie I've seen this year over any other movie. So yes, it did, but if I had my thinking brain on, there's obviously nitpicks that you can have with the movie, but obviously the fun overtook that.
So I gave it an 8.5 just because out of all the movies I've seen this year, I think it's the easiest one to recommend, and I think I could recommend it to the most people. Like, I don't need to say, oh, you could go see this, but I don't know if you're going to love everything about it. It's like, just go see it. It's exactly what you think it's going to be. It is a movie about Mario. Like, you're not going to be disappointed. You're going to get exactly what you came for, no surprises. So it was definitely worth watching for me. So what's your total score, Jacob?
78.5 5 out of 100. I think it's not an amazing movie, but I think for what it does, it's a fun movie for older adults and for families, but it's obviously not a Shakespearean experience. It's not like the Batman with Robert Pattinson or amazing movie that you go, that's just a masterpiece, but it's a fun movie that I think everyone should see.
I gave it 83.5%. Very similar reasons. It's fun for a lot of people, appeals to a large audience. It was quick, it was simple, it didn't overplay their hand. Maybe a bit more treacherous ending, a bit more to that, and maybe a couple more Easter eggs or extra characters could have pumped it up a bit. But for an animated movie, that's as good as it gets, really, I think. So 83.5% for me. So let's move into some spoilers and some discussions that will include spoilers. So if you haven't seen the movie and you don't want us to ruin it for you, maybe tune off here. If not, stick around. What's the first topic of discussion, Jacob?
I guess talking about the divide between the audience and the critics in Rotten Tomato. Do you think it's fair for the critics, or obviously we're on the side of the audience?
Oh, we're critics too. You have a YouTube channel going, you consider yourself a critic. What you mean? So the critics gave it, I think it was sub 60%, 57 or something, and the audience was 90. Like, why do you think that is?
I guess the critics, they don't get the fun of it. They like I said when I was seeing the nitpicks, instead of putting on their fun brain, they were like, oh, this is terrible. Instead of going, what the movie's actually for, they were more going, well, comparing it to bigger movies that are more for adults, what this is more not remembering who the audience it's going for the movie.
In saying that, maybe the critics do kind of keep every movie on the same scale, where like an animated kids movie will always fall pretty low because it can't get much higher. Like, it doesn't have enough context or areas where it can score highly. Like, I don't know how the critics do it on Rotten Tomatoes, but I think, yeah, your fan finds it fun, and I think your critic is going to look at it harshly. And we kind of fell in between. Like, if we think if 60 is what the critics give it and the fans give it 90, we gave it, you know, around 80% each. So we're like kind of in the middle of that, or we're more towards the fan range, if anything. But we've put our kind of critical thinking hat on, our critic's eye or perspective. But we're also fans, and we just looked at it, did we enjoy it or not? So I don't know if the critics' score will start to pump up, or will the fans' score start to drop down once the hype goes away. I'm not sure, but that is a big discrepancy between those two.
Well, we mentioned in the review that Seth Rogen, we didn't like that casting. Who do you think would have been a better one?
Yeah, it's a good question. That was the only thing in the movie, not to say that Seth Rogen did a bad job, it was just more, I envisioned Donkey Kong being more masculine and tough, and Seth Rogen, like a jokester, he has that kind of stoner vibe to him. It just didn't add up for Donkey Kong, but I think they did want him to be docile and playful. That's, I think, is what they were going for, because his dad was kind of like, oh, stop, showing your muscles and stop showing off. Like, so they wanted that. Someone that comes to mind for me is maybe like Jamie Foxx could have pulled that off, but then thinking about Jamie Foxx is a bit serious. That could work. Who else have you got in mind?
I was thinking at first The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, and then my second choice, what I think is better, is John Cena.
I think John Cena would probably be the best. I think because you just know that voice. He's masculine. He always comes across that little bit dopey. I think John Cena would have been perfect. And I wonder if Seth Rogen was their first choice. It's not like he's a second, like he's a bad choice at all. Like, he may have been the first person they went to. But I'd just be curious maybe if he wasn't. Because, it seems like he'd be more fitting for someone like a John Cena. Who was the standout for you, voice-wise?
For me, it was Jack Black as Bowser and Charlie Day.
Yeah, exactly the same. I don't really know the actress that plays Peach that well. Chris Pratt was great. But, Charlie Day was just perfect. He's one of my favourite actors from my favourite TV show. I think he does such a great job. And Jack Black was a perfect choice for that. Especially, he has the voice for singing as well, for the musical scene in the movie. It just suited it very, very well.
Do you think they actually needed to separate the two brothers? I actually think it would have been better if they kept them together. Maybe make it that they're good people, and make it that they actually all help Pete together.
Yeah, I think their on-screen chemistry, which seems odd because it's animated, worked really well. Like that first 20 minutes before they go into the Mushroom Kingdom was really, really good. So I would have definitely liked to see more of that because Luigi kind of vanished from that point, and I think Luigi stands out more than Mario in this movie. I would have liked to see more screen time for him. So how do you think we flip the switch? What do you does Peach get taken or does no one get taken? They just take on Bowser? Like, how would you approach this?
Probably no one gets taken, and Luigi is like, oh, we should go home, and then Mario's like, oh, we need to stand up to Bowser. They can do it either way.
Yeah, I think they probably would have floated that idea because they kind of set it up with how when Brooklyn was flooding and Mario goes, we're going to save Brooklyn. He wants to be a hero. So he's got that, he's inclined to want to be a hero and save the day. And then they set Luigi and he's known for being a bit of a coward. So do we set that up where, yeah, he's like, oh, I think we should go home, Luigi. And no, we should go home, Mario. And Mario's like, no, we're going to save the Mushroom Kingdom. Maybe it's his, because he has a crush on Peach and that's why he wants to help save her. Like, that could work. Or did they think that that didn't give it enough stakes that they'd go, no, that doesn't work. They would just leave. You have to have, I need to save my brother. I'm in favour of your idea. I think that could have worked just as well and it would have maybe even worked better.
Did you buy that Bowser wouldn't have used big power?
Like the special?
Yeah.
Yeah, you wonder why he was saving it for Peach and when I guess if he powered himself up, he would have been unbeatable. But maybe that was because he wanted it to be a gift for Peach or he didn't actually understand how it worked. But I do like that that was the kind of token thing that he was after in the game. So I thought that was kind of cool. If they were to make spin-offs of this, who would you like to see movies made of?
I would like to see Luigi, Bowser, and Princess Peach.
I feel like if we made movies with those, you'd end up kind of having them all in it, but it could definitely work. I would like to see a Yoshi or Yoshi be in it. Toad could probably have some kind of spin-off or just a future movie. If there was to be a Super Mario Brothers 2, what do you reckon would be the plot of that?
Obviously, Bowser somehow escapes from the trap and then he comes up, finds an army and somehow gets back to his kingdom.
Yeah, or you feel like maybe this time Peach does get taken and then he's got to they've got to go rescue Peach or something.
Yeah.
Do you think they will make a second movie?
Hopefully.
I think it could work, or maybe they might just go, there's nothing here for us to write, let's not ruin it. But there seems to always be that search for money, and if it was popular at the box office, they may as well go a second time around. Is there any other Nintendo-owned properties you think that now that we've seen an animated movie, they could have an attempt at?
Zelda?
I'd like to see a Zelda. Do you think Zelda as animated would be cool or live action?
Animated?
I think animated's the safest bet. I think live action would be cool, but I think it'd be hard to get right. But, they could pull off a really epic story there. Like, I feel like it'd be similar to, like, The Witcher, something like that. I don't know a whole lot of the other franchises. I've heard some people mention it might be Star Fox and then Exium or something. I don't know those franchises well enough, but definitely I think there's a lot of merit here with the Mario franchise and lots of areas they can expand to.
Do you think they should have had the original cast members in the movie more, or do you think it was better how they approached it?
Oh, so you mean having the voice actors from the games?
Yeah.
And going with that generic Italian accent opposed to what they did?
Yeah, instead of having them appear in that ad commercial.
No, I think it's perfect. I think if you give them the Italian accent the whole way through, one, it's probably racist and it's a bit stupid. But I think they found a way to incorporate it. Because if you did, I think people would have been disappointed. So I think the ad was the perfect way. Like they've gone over the top. They're from an Italian family. I think it was a good way to give you what we expected without ruining it. What do you think?
I agree with that. I personally liked having Western voices more, but I still like that they still had the original voices in there to be respectful.
I think as well, getting them like worried about, oh, who's the voice actor and are they going to have an accent, that's only really applicable to Western societies. Like, this movie's going to be massive in Japan, and they're going to have Japanese actors voicing that with Japanese accents. So we're worried about something that's probably not even important to somewhere like Japan. They're not, like, they're going to hear it in Japanese anyway, so you're not going to have them speaking Japanese in an Italian accent. It's just the weirdest thing ever. So it's probably where this movie is going to make its biggest amount of money, when Nintendo is like the be all end all is Japan. So where they don't seem to be concerned about, I don't think, because they know that the movie was not made for them, but will be their main audience in the end. It's very strange.
Do you think we'll get a sequel?
I think they'll go for it. I think they'll try and drag money out of it. I don't know how they'll do it, but I think they probably will. It just seems to be the way. And there's a million Mario sequel games, so why not do a movie?
Well, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. As always, you are awesome. Like and subscribe. See you in the next video. Bye-bye.